welcome back to Recorder on the Wall, where it's winter, and we're really bored because all the snow fell outside the Abbey, so we decided, as we always do, to cook food. I'm Pete.
I'm Jeremy. How's it going?
Jeremy, those better not be my Nunny molars.
No.
They're
I'm
mine
Matthias,
now.
and he stole those from me.
I'm Katie, and I put the Harris Haversack crumble into my backpack, and it didn't turn out so well.
That's fair enough. And introducing new for the first time on the show is Brandon. He approached us on Twitter about guesting, and we decided to have him on. Brandon, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Happy to join.
So, as we ask everyone new who comes on the show, I have to know, what is your favorite book?
I would say Martin the Warrior, followed pretty closely by Matameo.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
And just because if I don't do this, Jeremy will inevitably bring it up. Who's your least favorite hair?
Ooh. I don't know. I recently read.
There is a right answer for this, by the way.
I would say there's two, Jeremy.
Is it Fleet's Cut that everyone just hates? Which
Used to be.
I would say
he's been usurped.
He's been eclipsed.
it's been so long since like the last two books that I've read were I went back and reread Martin the Warrior like last year, and then this year I finally went and read Marl Fox, and I thought, was it Basil? He got a little overdone, but the other ones, it's been so long since I've read that I can't really remember. So I'll just take everybody else's word for which hair is worse.
Okay. Sorry, my dryer is done, and it's singing its little "I am done" song. So sorry if you can hear that.
No worries. So now that we've gotten the requisite hate at Scarum out of the way, Jeremy does not need to bring it up ever again for this episode.
I don't need to, but I want to.
I'm so sorry.
Don't worry,
I did make a
Jeremy.
dish-
Don't worry,
I did
Jeremy.
make a dish that has something to do with hairs, so sorry. You might have to bring it up again.
Well, I mean,
Thanks for the
don't
backup,
worry.
Katie.
Well,
Between Katie and myself, we have you covered.
Thank
Don't
you.
worry.
speaking for the new guy, you
Yes.
don't want to scare him off.
Yeah, please don't. So, officially, folks, if you've never listened to our food episodes before, this is just basically a normal. We take it easy. We talk. We do have an actual bit of a narrative to cover. There's a story actually in the actual Redwall cookbook, and we will address that as we go along. But primarily for our food episode, we just talk about something that we either cooked directly out of the Redwall cookbook or a cookbook adjacent to it. So for years, I on this show have been doing the Game of Thrones cookbook, and I routinely, and probably deservedly so, got reminded, hey, you really should pick up the Redwall cookbook. Well, I finally have it, and I finally made something out of it. No, I wasn't delaying it because I kept forgetting about it. I don't know what you're talking about. So,
I'll just admit I'm just a cheap bugger. So, so it was over. If everyone will know, over the years, I've just been picking all the fan recipes because those are free. Granted, buying all the food is not free, but I also, for this time, have the cookbook, and I've actually had it for the last few months, and just keep forgetting to try to make something. So, finally made something out of it.
okay. So, if you've never seen the cookbook itself, it is not dissimilar to, at least artwork-wise, to both A Winter's Tale, which we just covered last episode, and the one we will cover later, The Great Redwall Feast, in that our artist is Christopher Denise. Chris, again, if I'm saying your last name wrong, I am so sorry. So, it is 104 pages, officially, according to the Redwall Wiki, although my copy only rounds out about 96.
Yep.
So, go
Same
figure.
here.
So,
Maybe it's counting the unnumbered pages at like the very beginning.
could be, but those
Yeah,
are usually given
I
little
think so.
Roman numerals traditionally,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
Matthias?
There are, let's see. Yeah, 8 extra pages. So I'm guessing they're including the unnumbered ones.
Possibly.
That would take it to 104.
There we go.
So, in this book itself, it's not only is there a small story, which is again what we'll be covering. We have what is supposed to be food from the franchise itself. Now, this came out, looks like 2005 by my count, by the copyright date stamped in mine. And I brought the paperback version, not the hardback.
Okay, then yeah, you and I have the exact same one then.
And
As do
according to
I.
the Red Wiki, yeah, that's what they have. So, and the Red Bull Cookbook itself divides everything into by season, and that's how the story progresses. Now, here's where things get a little odd because just like A Winter's Tale, this clearly happens after the original novel. But I'm not. And I think it's supposed to take place before Madame but there's weird continuity errors here.
I would say
Yeah.
it's more of just a fun little side thing that just happens to use the characters from that time.
That's fair. I mean, that's totally fair.
Yeah, I think that's
I
the
mean-
best way to look at it.
I suppose, but I do think there's evidence that supports this is actually after Madame AO.
But Friar Hugo is alive.
Yes, which is the problem.
So unless they're all having a mass hallucination, and given the stagnant water that's in that pond, I don't know.
Friar Hugo is Tyler Durden, and
It's an alternate
Oh my
timeline.
and Pansy just happens to be seeing him throughout the whole story.
And
It's
guess
an
what, guys?
alternate timeline.
There's still no Mr. Squirrel. He's still gone.
Well, I mean, if this is after the original novel, yeah, of course he's already gone. So
I thought he disappeared partway through Madame when all the
Oh,
parents
no.
left.
He was never in Madame.
yeah,
Okay.
he's not in Madame. Now the
Okay.
book itself actually begins with a very nice foreword from Brian himself.
Mhm.
He talks about growing up in World War II era England when, the whole country was on serious rationing. Fun. If you know your history here, the U.S. and other allied countries, even before we jumped into the war itself, were basically giving Britain extra food to stay in the fight. So it makes completely sense that they would have to ration things out for their populace. And we also talk about part of here is what Brian, in his foreword, says Brian, he mentions on the books he was reading at the time, not only with the water, the colored illustrations of delicious foods would make him whoop his mouth water, but he's reading these fantasy books and he reads how this hero is treated to a king by a great meal, but we don't even know what's in it. And long before George R. R. Martin stepped onto the field in this fantasy genre, here's Brian saying, "No, we should feature what food they did."
Yeah.
I think that's cool. Like, I never knew the genesis behind why he was so focused on showing all the different foods and everything. And I like how he says he considers it just as important as every other kind of key feature of the series.
And I mean, it makes sense also from the standpoint of we know he wrote the original book for the Liverpool School for the Blind.
Mhm.
So I mean, food appeals to your sense of smell and taste. So
Mhm.
it's just another way to make the world that much more real for people who can't enjoy it sightedly.
Excitedly. That's a new word you just invented.
I know, I'm
I've heard-
making up words.
So
It's okay.
I have
I
a
can English.
question. I
Yeah.
know that there are. So my book obviously does not have pictures, but it does have these brackets, and it says illustration : and then it has a description of the pictures. Is that in you guys' book or not? Like-
no.
I mean, we have the illustrations, but not the description.
Yeah.
Right. But it's so weird though, because usually when I get descriptions of pictures, it's just like these very generic, what looks like a mouse is standing doing a thing, and there's like a hedgehog looking thing. But this, can I just read you one of these because these are
Sure.
great.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so this one says, Ambrose, a hedgehog, is rolling a large barrel into the kitchen. Friar Hugo's arms are outstretched to get it. Pansy, wearing a purple dress and a white apron, is at a brown table peeling some kind of vegetable, a bowl full of what looks like potatoes, 2 whole cloves of garlic, and a large turnip, as well as a recipe book propped open on a stand, are on the table. The room is
Wow.
very large, with a stone floor, large vaulted ceiling, and arched doorways. A wood pile is next to a stone fireplace. Hanging from the ceiling is a round fixture with partially burned down candles. It's like, whoa, that is
Wow. That
that
is
is-
That sounds
a
like
perfect.
Brian wrote it.
That's
I
a
I know
know.
exactly.
description of the
I know
picture.
exactly which one that is too.
Yeah.
that is much more detailed than I'm used to getting. And there are names in it. Usually when people are describing these pictures, they do their best, but they're not invested in what the story is. And they're not not that they don't care, but they probably don't have time to look up all the names and stuff. But this person is just like, no, we're going to give them all the details of everything.
They were dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
great.
It's funny you mention that because one of the things you have to do in modern web design classes, my master's was only a few years ago, so that was part of it, was any web page you have to put out there these days is supposed to, but God knows how many of them don't, is supposed to have maybe not that level description of images, but you're supposed to have a basic idea of what any image you put out there on the wild web is, so anyone coming along with some sort of website reader basically knows what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had never seen that before. I was like, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect description of that image on page
I
6.
know.
I also love the little detail in that image that Friar Hugo has the little dock leaf on his tail.
I was
yeah.
just about to say that. You can see that in a couple of the other illustrations too.
That's cool.
So we also begin before we get into the actual story proper. There are 2 more pages. We have a brief page that basically gives a key of, hey, when deciding on a recipe, keep in mind the following legend. And we have a picture of Friar Hugo with oven mitts saying any recipe with his image is meant for adult supervision on cooking it. And then we also have a mole kid holding a spoon, and I presume this is Bungo because he's name dropped again.
Yes.
That says, quote, child/Dibbin friendly.
And he's wearing the most floppy, oversized chef hat I have ever seen, and it is adorable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then our final forward here is our not pirate skipper of otters from Winter's Tale. He again missing an eye with an eye patch. He is basically outlining the kitchen rules of Old Redwall for Dibbins and youngins, in fact, for all. But
which is good too, because like the very first 2 are like, do not play around stoves and hot ovens, burnt tails. I burn myself many times when I'm cooking. Do not mess with sharp knives. For like the very first food episode, I cut one of my fingers open on accident. So these are good. It was a brand new knife. I had gotten a brand new knife set, and I was trying to cut a bell pepper, and it cut through it way faster than I expected and cut through one of my fingers with it. And I had also just moved, so I'm running around my house trying to figure out where the heck I put the Band-Aids, squeezing and holding my fingers so the blood doesn't drip everywhere.
Oh no.
I must remind you, this is a food episode. We want people to have an appetite.
well, too late.
A lot of my blood, sweat, and tears go into my food, literally.
He was making finger foods.
I like it.
Wonderful.
Oh no, another one.
Yeah. We just carry on. So yes, it's all common sense stuff, and yeah, it's really fun to see this. So our story begins in spring proper, and each season's element basically has an introductory poem and setting, as well as get into our story. And we begin in spring. And our first image is 2 of our mousemaids walking through, I would presume, either just outside the Abbey or more likely within the Abbey gardens. They're in the orchard. And yeah, it's a nice poem that I don't want to read the whole thing and get Penguin's lawyers coming down on me. So,
but yeah, no, I like how each season gets that introductory poem. If you would like to know what these poems are, buy the book.
Support the official release, of course.
Indeed.
I mean, it's not an expensive book to begin with, and it's worth it for the recipes. I mean,
Yes.
Think about it like this. If you buy the cookbook and then you make the food yourself, think about how much money you saved by not going to a restaurant to order this kind of food, and then just tabulate that over time, and the cookbook will eventually recoup its own costs.
Not to mention the fact that there's dishes in here that you're not going to find anywhere else. Like, you're not going to be able to go into, like, unless there's you know what? Redwall themed restaurant. Let's do that.
We'll franchise it.
Hugo's.
Oh,
Aw,
Perfect.
I like that.
So our proper story here, it follows two people, Friar Hugo and the new Sister Pansy, who is basically, and I'm spoiling this, is his protege.
Wait. Sister Pansy? You mean I could say Pansy Tansy Toogledoo?
It's not the right-
Sure.
I could not stop thinking about that every time I saw her name, honestly.
So it's basically every time we encounter a recipe here, or sometimes 2, we're given a short story section on where it comes from.
Mhm.
Yeah,
and
which is fun.
we begin with a hair of prospering vegetable soup, and basically find Hugo and Pansy in the kitchens preparing for a springtide sun feast.
Yep.
And our first one sounds awesome. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually I eventually had to stop saying, like, I have so many notes where I just wrote, like, ooh, this sounds good. Oh, that sounds delicious. And I was like, eventually I just went, okay, I'm going to stop saying this sounds delicious because almost everything in this book sounds fantastic.
yeah, if we comment on each and every recipe, we're going to be here all day.
Exactly.
Right.
If you rate everything on a scale from 1 to 10, you're probably going to be using nothing but 7s through 10s. I mean, there will be nothing that's below a 7.
With
There's
one
one thing in
exception,
here.
and I know Jeremy's going to want to talk about it because it's
Yeah.
something he's made before. You'll have to regale us with that story when we come to it, Jeremy.
Will do.
For what, the 5th time?
I'll do the abridged version.
Yes, our first recipe is vegetable soup, and then we get the image that Katie mentioned with Ambrose rolling the keg into the kitchens. And how does he get it up the stairs?
Very
Magic.
slowly.
He's got a secret escalator.
Oh, okay.
And am I the only one who read most of Ambrose Spike's dialogue in like a slurred voice?
No.
Like there's
did
like a
not.
very specific one where I was reading it where I was like, "How do you like my October ale?"
You really want him to just suffer.
I don't want him to suffer. You know what? He's like
Okay,
the
let's
Barney
be
Gumble
fair.
of Redwall.
Let's be fair. He is it's only the original book that portrays him as a raging alcoholic. By the
Actually,
time-
Adam Mayo did. Because remember, he and Basil were like singing songs and Rollo was repeating them.
Drawn.
But that was during a feast. There's a difference between feast Ambrose and normal everyday Ambrose.
I mean, especially when we get to Iron Beak and his invasion, he's clearly sobered up. So,
Oh, yeah. He's
It's hard
still
to-
hurling insults, but they're a lot more focused.
It's hard to expect him to be sober though. I mean, he's a hedgehog. All of his drinks are spiked.
Nice.
ladies and gentlemen, Redwall's Three Stooges.
You're hired.
I mean, that's kind of the point. It's a sticking point.
I'll give you a sticking point.
Thank you, Katie. So our next recipe is the crispy cheese and onion hog bake, and I am totally making this later.
Just
Yeah,
make
me
sure
too.
you guys don't hedgehog all the puns.
Moving right along.
Keep it down, Quill you.
Moving right along, we get Formal, who has makes awesome vegetable casserole.
Yes.
But it's
Yeah.
literally called vegetable casserole a la Formal, and we have Pansy, who basically says, "Oh, you want to tell me how to make it?" And then there's a recipe. And every recipe we've gotten so far, I'm going to call out the Dibbin specific ones. So unless I say otherwise, assume it's an adult one.
Yeah, the majority of them are for adults.
Yeah, you can expect that.
Yeah. There are certain things in here that maybe I just don't look. I haven't looked for them in the supermarket, but like there's certain vegetables and things that I don't normally see. Like I haven't really looked for rutabagas, but I don't remember seeing them in like my local supermarket.
And let's be honest here, this is written with British cooking sensibilities in mind, not American.
Yes.
So some of this stuff we're just not going to have
Yeah.
at least readily access to.
Yeah. Or you might need to find like alternative versions of some of these things.
Yeah, check a website to see if there's like a similar American substitute you could use instead. Because, for example, we don't have elderberries.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was like, I don't remember seeing this. What about gooseberries? I don't remember
Or
seeing
I
those
do.
either.
They're
Huh?
a thing. They're a thing here. At least in the Midwest.
Okay.
I don't
I've
think
noticed.
I've never
I
looked
noticed
for
another
it.
one. I didn't get time to Google it, but was mentioned a Jerusalem artichoke. So,
Yeah, I haven't seen that either. I see
don't-
artichokes, but I'm assuming it's like a similar.
probably a variant. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guarantee you there's a website out there that's like, hey, what can I substitute this with? And you just type in whatever, and it's literally all the website is. There are some
Oh, I'm sure.
crazy cook people out there that also really, really want to get other people into cooking. That seems like a great way to do that.
Well, there's at least one website out there where you can actually put in the ingredients you have lying around, and it'll give you options.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. But most importantly, we get into this next section of spring. Is we have Basil's back.
Yay!
Not only is he back, but apparently he brought home a nephew who is just as flippant as
Basil
his uncle is.
My immediate reaction was, Basil has a nephew? Is his name Oregano?
I was just thinking of these two along with Cheek the Otter. Like, what kind of hijinks they get up to.
Oh my god. That would have been
Let
great.
me guess. Basil's grandfather was named Paprika, and I'm sure he really spiced up the conversation.
Yeah.
He has a few brothers, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. They're all going to Scarborough Fair.
I'm sure.
All right, so yeah, the next one is Gourmet Garrison Grilled Leeks, which I need to make that. Because leeks are basically just green onions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
We also-
and Basil's nephew, his name is Tumscoff.
Yep.
Is that just not the most hair
Tumscoff
name ever?
Stag Viddle Smythe.
Yeah. You
His
know.
name is food.
Well, maybe he's good at helping people get rid of heartburn.
I like
Yes,
that.
by eating all the heartburn food first. That way they can't get it.
Well, you can tell this is not slightly in continuity with the main books because. Are you kidding
Ooh,
me?
doorbell.
I'll be right back.
What is it? So, yeah, I like how he calls him Nunky Baz or
Nunky Baz. Yes.
Nunky Baz. And throughout the whole book, Basil's like, "Stop calling me that," and then Hugo calls him that too in this scene.
Yes.
And it goes on for a couple seasons until eventually it's like, look, Uncle Basil. It's like,
Yes.
finally got around to beating some sense into that kid.
And some of the things we see in this, like, because there are a few signature Redwall dishes in this book, and we will get to those because I think it's kind of cool that they actually have, like, there's obviously original stuff like the grilled leeks. They probably have them in there, or they've mentioned them, but it's not like this is something you see in almost every Redwall book dish.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was some Raven calling himself Iron Bum or something, saying he wanted to take over my place. I don't know.
What did you tell him?
He had the wrong apartment.
Did you
Oh,
tell him
nice.
to boil his beak?
No. He had the wrong apartment. I'm not impolite.
Sorry, wrong Abby.
Was he looking for strawberry trees?
I'm sorry, Mr. Raven, but your Abbey is in another apartment building.
All right, where did I miss, guys?
Brought up Nunky Baz.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I was just mentioning how a good amount of the recipes in here are like original things that we don't normally see, but we will kind of point out the signature Redwall dishes that get covered.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but this is what I was going to say. This is partial. This is tangential continuity because of main books. Because if Nunky Baz was a real thing in Manameo, no one would have let Basil live it down.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
I do like.
Actually,
that.
I would really like to see the story from the cookbook done in the style of the animated series.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
That'd be cool.
maybe. And with in between seasons, we get that traditional tapestry bumper.
Yes.
Yep. That
So, yeah.
Redwall cooking show.
Next one we have. Or did you already get to the stuffed mushrooms?
Was just
Nope.
about to. Yeah, the next one,
Well-
which I definitely got to make these.
Yep.
Yeah. Father Abbott walks in. He's like, "I want my mushrooms, not my nutmeg. Mushrooms."
Father Abbott needs his fix. I need my stuffed mushrooms.
So, these sound amazing. There are portobello mushrooms. Basically, you carve the cap out and put
butter,
sesame seeds,
breadcrumbs.
hard cheese into it.
I've noticed parsley is used in a lot of the recipes.
Parsley has a good flavor.
I was never a fan. That's not a pun. I just don't like parsley.
Oh, no, that's fair.
Did you not like the dish that I chose out of here because there was a lot of parsley involved?
Mine has a little parsley, but
Come on, let's keep moving. We should keep on time.
Jeez,
I
oh
have mine on
God.
occasion.
Hang on, guys. I got to check something. No, pigs are not flying outside. Pete just made a pun.
You had a few sage words for us.
I am an
It was-
island. I am an island. I am an island.
don't worry, Kate.
Salty.
Kate, we're not going to assault you further. with
No.
any more puns.
That's
We'll just-
done. You're done.
We'll just pepper
You're
them
done.
around.
You're done. You're done. Thank you. So basically, yes, we're told the mushrooms are being cooked, and then we get Bungo. If you remember him, he's the one who went screaming from a window into the snowbank and suffered no injuries.
And saw a giant badger.
Yes.
But yes, he's leading a troop of Abbey babes who are up to mischief, and we get Skipper, who is gigantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about how anthropomorphic are they in scale after this is over, but oh my.
Skipper's been taking his vitamins. I did notice one thing. Pansy gives the Dibbin some candied chestnuts. We're not given excuse me. Not given that as a recipe.
No.
No.
That made me sad.
For what it's
But-
worth, somebody posted one on the Redball subreddit recipe for candy chestnuts.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, Skipper tries to escort them out, and we give it our next recipe is the Abbott's Special Abbey Trifle, and I mean, who doesn't like custard sauce? So
Right.
Sounds good.
now, again, if you haven't already guessed, yes, this cookbook also keeps to the Redwall tradition of everything is vegetarian with one accepted recipe.
With the shrimp.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it even mentions using like vegetable bouillon or vegetable stock and things like that.
Yeah, there was never hey, let's do some chicken or beef stock or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this is basically a pie with cake or as the base. Yes, please.
Sounds like some tiramisu.
Yeah. Little tip for all the people who will be reading this book for the first time or listening to this podcast now. Don't listen to us on an empty stomach. Don't read this book on an empty stomach.
Yeah. If
Right.
it's getting to that bad time, pause. Come back to us later after you've eaten something.
Yep. Unless you're listening to us hoping to hear a specific recipe that we think is excellent and you want to pick out and make, which I do recommend. There's definitely plenty of things in including the next
Or-
one of the next ones.
Or you
Well,
could
this
snack
is after
while you
Skipper
listen.
is,
That's always a thing.
Skipper's basically acting like a big Dibbin himself, and they
Yeah.
doesn't actually leave them out of the kitchen. They keep sticking around for more candied chestnuts.
Yeah, but I do like that where Pansy's like,
And the
"Now
Abbott's doing the
sit-
same thing.
Now sit still there and be good. We'll let you watch." And Skipper goes, "Thank you, Marm. We'll be good. I promise." That's so cute.
Yes, our next one is spiced gatehouse tea bread.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, you'd probably want to change the spice you choose to use based on time of year. Although they have this in spring, because one of the core ingredients to make spiced bread here is pumpkin pie spice.
Yeah, which is usually more readily available around November, October.
Oh, it goes great in coffee, but
Mhm.
they also offer an alternative here. You can basically cinnamon, ginger, and nutmeg separately.
Yep.
Now, it mentions for dried fruit, it mentions currants. Is that something we
I
have
don't
over
think
here?
I don't think they're a thing here,
Mm-mm.
as
And-
far as I know.
Golden raisins?
Oh, yeah. Well, at least in California, I see them.
Well, I would expect California. Yes.
Yeah, I do see. You should see them in the same like aisle at least if they. I'm assuming they would be available anywhere. Like the Sun-Made raisins, like that
Mhm.
brand. They have a golden raisin variant.
So, Yeah, it basically this is bread with spices and dried fruit baked into it, and that sounds awesome.
Oh
Indeed.
yes.
It actually sounds more like a winter thing, honestly. Like a
I
nice.
didn't want to use the word fruitcake, but yeah.
It's very fruitcake, but more breaded fruitcake than cake fruitcake.
So we get Matthias comes in. Hey, I want that Spice Gatehouse tea, and we also have Cornflower, who's right there. And just like a Winter's Tale, yeah, Matthias has let himself go. He's not. He's carrying the sword around, but
It's the habit, I swear. It's just oversized.
I like to wear loose clothing. It's comfortable.
Yeah,
It's
the
all
next
gone to his Matthias.
Oh.
Sorry, that's a reach.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's good to see him because it does set the time frame. But I'm not going to stop myself from making jokes at his expense.
He
So
got
the
shaped by Madame Maya. This was in between story. It's kind of like in between the Marvel movies. Like I don't think Chris Evans stays in shape the entire time. He drops a few pounds. So Matthias is like, look, Madame Mayo won't be here for a few months. I still have time to train and get back into shape. But for now, food.
Well, since Madame Mayo is alive in this book, you could say he put on sympathy weight with his
There we
wife. The next recipe here is one I have done, just not to the exact same proportions. This is one I saw and I have made out of the Game of Thrones cookbook. So honey baked apples. The core difference here, and baked apples are always great, but the core difference here is that they have basically some of that dried fruit raisins, currants, and golden raisins to go over the top of the baked apples themselves, and added honey and apparently heavy, custard sauce and or heavy cream.
Yep. Also, just a note, some of the recipes in here are, even though they're vegetarian, they're not exactly low fat, but there's some heavy whipping cream used in some of these things.
Oh God, no!
I'm curious where they get cream from, if they're mice.
This is true. Because they do have cheese in the series too.
I
That's a-
have heard them using green sap milk.
Yep.
Yeah.
So from
Oh.
trees? Question mark.
Yeah, I do know that there are certain plants that when you pick them, you can then squeeze them and remove like a pulp or a sap from them, collect that all in a bowl, probably strain out any like little seedy bits, and there you go. You have plant juice.
Yeah. Well, here's a better question. They still don't explain where the eggs in these recipes come from.
Nobody knows.
No wonder why
Don't check the
sparrow
Abbey
population
Raptors.
was reduced real.
Yeah, we're not going to go too hard into that.
Sparrow you.
Let's take a peek at the next recipe.
Hot mint tea, and this one actually surprised me because you can walk into any grocery store right now and buy peppermint tea.
Yeah.
And all it is peppermint leaves that have been dried and put into a tea bag. And you
Mhm.
can brew that over hot water, and you get a nice bit of hot peppermint water.
Mm-hmm.
Hot peppermint tea. But the recipe for this actually is it's literally taking a black tea and adding fresh chopped mint to it to steep.
Sounds delicious.
And guess who's making it? Not so Silent Sam.
I love
Noisy
that.
Sam.
It's called
Yes.
Noisy Sam. Yeah.
I'm making tea. It's got mint in it.
Oh god.
Also, we're told that Basil and Tumskuff have rejoined the kitchen despite being chased out, and they're sitting on a heavy shelf. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
everybody else. All the people that are watching the cooking are sitting on one shelf. That seems safe.
Yep. That's fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
No OSHA violation here.
So yes, but as everybody's watching this being made, we have Friar who's taking count of everything going on, and Sister Pansy tries to get his attention multiple times,
Yes.
But
only for well,
Ba-doom! and then it all comes crashing down, and then we have crumble.
And Basil, who was up there, fell on the hard stone floors. He's basically, yeah, his back is broken, but it'll take leaks to straighten it up again.
Of course.
And his nephew is, he's very caring and empathetic about it. And he's just like, oh, bad luck, Nunky Baz. You lie there and rest your old bones. We're to get washed up. Put our feaster tugs on. And Basil...
Cads! I say there! Wait for a wounded warrior! What?
Don't get me wrong. Now that I'm in my 30s, things hurt. So I can only wonder how bad Basil's feeling at the moment. But yeah, this is funny.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. Especially in the illustration, he's shaking one paw while leaning on his swagger stick with the other, just like, I'll get you!
Dude, forget falling. I turn the wrong way and I twist my knee half the time.
Okay, but that's the end of spring.
Yep. Now to summer. And we actually get more story before we actually get to the recipes in this one. We get 4 full pages of story before we get to the first dish. And our very first dish is something that also sounds delicious, hot root sun salad.
We'll come to it in just a moment. But the story here is basically Hugo was forcibly given a day off, and he's none too happy about it. I guess good guy HR did enforce some accrued vacation time.
Yep. And so everyone else comes up with their very own recipes, completely original. They don't steal anything. They steal his recipes.
Spoilers.
I'm spoiling the cookbook story? Really?
Spoilers!
Look, the only thing we have to worry about spoiling in this is the actual food.
Hey, if you're going to make as many puns as you can, I'm going to have my revenge somewhere.
I'm going to be as petty as possible, darn it.
Maybe.
So they keep him outside and they start bringing out these different recipes. And so the framing is Hugo says, well, how'd you make that? And they go, well, I made it by using ingredients, salt, 3 medium parsnips, peeled and cut into matchsticks.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy Bot. But before we actually get into the story, we also get our first Constance look. And yeah, she's still big, but she's not nearly as big as she was depicted in A Winter's Tale, at least in this illustration. Because we also have the Goysum and Log and Log Shrews are in the orchard. And we're also told that we're going to put out our best white linens out in the orchard in picnic tables.
This is a good idea. They won't be white after this.
Especially since Bungo, I presume that's Bungo, is wrapped up in one.
Yep. And on that picture on page 29, you can tell it's already stained. They haven't even put it out yet. I gotta say, because Skipper seems larger in this one. He took all of Constance's supplements. But yeah, so the first one, I want to try this though. Also, again, I don't think I've seen parsnips, but again, I'm super unobservant. There's a term called change blindness, where if like you see something change, like if something has changed, you don't notice it until somebody points it out. That's me times a million, because I'll walk past something like 100 times, and until somebody points it out to me, I'll be like, "Oh, when was that there?"
I've also never heard of this in this particular salad, this hot root sun salad, is that they toss the in the instructions is to toss the vegetables in the water and boil them. Cook them in a sauce pot and boil them for about 6 to 8 minutes. I've never heard of anyone doing that with a salad.
Yeah, my aunt makes this sort of salad that has like 3 different kinds of cooked beans, but it's like served cold and it has like a vinegar dressing. It's really good.
3-bean salad?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I've heard of it, but never actually tried it.
It's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of beans are they?
They're green beans and like black beans? Question mark. I don't know. They're really good. I should check with her. I just.
But yes, this is where we had Jerusalem artichokes mentioned.
Yep.
So, but we have something that's hot root, but it's not shrimp.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally missed that part where they actually cook the vegetables. So that is different.
I mean, they still drain them before they put them in the salad bowl, but still.
Yeah, that is different.
Okay, I'm looking at. I just decided to look up Jerusalem artichokes because I'd never heard of them before either, and they don't look anything like artichokes.
Really? Oh.
Interesting.
All
Also
right, I'm
called
gonna Google
sunroot,
this.
sunchoke, or earth apple, a species of sunflower native to Central North America.
Oh yeah, it looks more like ginger,
Yeah, it does.
like a root vegetable. Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like an artichoke.
No, I guess we can't swap out regular artichoke for this.
Worst guacamole ever. But yes, we get as they start soon. The story goes on as Hugo is like, everything tastes so familiar. I don't know why."
Oh, here's something interesting. It said that it's actually native to Central North America, so it's not a English vegetable.
It's not.
Is there somewhere in Jerusalem or somewhere in
No.
North America named Jerusalem?
Yeah.
Let's just say in my state, Missouri, there's about a little town named for about everywhere on the face of the planet.
See,
There
that's
is
what.
there is a Cuba, Missouri. There is a Mexico, Missouri. There is a Japan, Missouri.
Well, actually, so etymology, at least this is from Wikipedia, so take this as you will. Despite one of its names, it has no relationship to Jerusalem and is not a type of artichoke, though the two are distantly related as members of the daisy family.
It is neither Jerusalem nor artichoke. Why was it named such? We have no idea.
People are weird.
Yes. So our
Pizza.
two recipes given here are, hey, Brockhole Badger carrot cakes.
Mhm.
Huh.
My recipe.
There's some.
Ooh.
Oh, you made these?
Yes.
Oh, go for
Well,
it.
let's hear about them.
Okay. So it's potato, carrots, onion, and breadcrumbs mixed together with 3 eggs and breadcrumbs to act as like binding agents, and a little bit of parsley, salt and pepper it to taste, and then you fry up the batter in skillet with a little bit of vegetable oil. So it makes like these little kind of breakfast casserole things, and they come out golden crispy. Now the thing is, I did not make those recently. I made this in preparation for last winter. So I'm using notes that are like a year old, so I kind of remember what was going on, but kind of don't. So I'm relying on past Matthias to have been thorough and accurate in his notes. So from those notes, it took about 60 minutes to actually like prep this stuff.
Whoa.
Although I'm sure that that was based on the fact that it's like first time doing a recipe, trying to figure out everything as you go along.
Yeah.
The actual cook time was really short, only about 20 minutes. And yeah, they came out really good. They tasted great. It was a lot of work. I'm sure if it became something that was like a frequently done recipe, you could probably shave down the cooking time as you got used to it. But you're still looking at about 45 minutes of work for the recipe to be done. They taste great. 8 out of 10 on flavor. And they cook up really easily once you have the actual batter put together. But because of how much work it was, at least that first time, I can only give it an overall rating of 5 out of 10.
Aw.
Shrug, what can you do?
Right.
My family and I agreed that it needed a little something, and we thought maybe adding some ham cubes. I know, gasp, adding meat to a red ball recipe. But some ham cubes would make it basically like a little breakfast patty that you could eat like 2 or 3 of and, call that a good breakfast. Unfortunately, this recipe only makes enough servings for like 4 people. So we're looking at like 4 to 6 little cakes, depending on how big you make them.
I have noticed, or actually, there's a few of them that say serves 4. That seems to be the average for some of these things, is serving 4 people.
Well, given that the Redwall Abbey was supposed to make this for an entire population, this is small recipes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I've linked in the notes a picture. I came across a website. Somebody else made them
Ooh.
and took some really nice pictures and notes about the whole process. And you can get some sense of what they look like. Definitely reminiscent of a like a home style family restaurant.
And they remind me of hoe cakes.
You know,
honestly.
they actually remind me of Jewish latkes that, ironically, are made during this time of year. Which, honestly, I'm looking at the recipe. Outside of like adding carrots, it's almost the exact take out the carrots and onions, and replace breadcrumbs with matzah meal, and it's basically latkes, which are
Nice.
potato pancakes. So that's what this kind of reminds me of.
So it's not really like carrot cake, because I hate carrot cake.
Oh, me too. I hate carrot cake.
These actually sound good, and the picture makes them look great.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they taste really good. I mean, like I said, just add like a little bit of ham to it. I'm sorry, Jeremy. But
Oh, that's fine.
that would it makes it like the perfect like breakfast side in my mind. You could probably have that alongside your muffin and your orange juice and have a really nice breakfast.
Well, I will say this: if I don't know if they taste anything like latkes, but usually I have those with applesauce. So applesauce might go well with these. I know some people have them with sour cream, which I'm not a sour cream fan.
I think I've heard of both people using both of those for latkes.
Yep.
I've never tried them though.
Oh, they're very tasty. I will be
I've
having
never
them
had
actually later
latkes.
this week.
Yum.
My parents will be making them. So
Yeah, like I said, that from picture, they remind me of traditional Southern or Midwestern hoe cakes, but no, that's not even close. Hoe cakes are like fried cornbread, in effect. So,
Whoa, that sounds good.
Bad.
um,
Which is surprisingly good just by itself.
so our next recipe. Well, thank you, Matthias, for telling us about that. First of all,
No problem.
our next recipe is Great Hall Gooseberry Fool, which basically sounds, gooseberry, not quite gooseberry pie, but it's about as close to it, because there's custard and whipped cream, both on top of it with grated chocolate.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is this the first instance of chocolate being mentioned in Redwall?
Yes.
Definitely is. And I'm like, I'm side-eyeing that a little bit.
I'm not complaining. By
Oh
the
no,
way.
definitely
I love
not. But I was just
chocolate.
like,
Where did the chocolate come from though?
From the land beyond the setting sun.
Southward.
They imported it.
No, not southward. It would have been San Petra, since that's actual tropical, and that would have been good for growing cocoa beans.
My question is, where do they get seltzer water?
Smoke bomb.
yeah.
So the next one we have Cornflowers doing a cheerful church mouse cherry crisp. Say that.
Okay, this is a thing that makes me kind of annoyed. Everyone, including Jakes, has seemed to forgotten that Cornflower is not a church mouse. She's a field mouse. Because if Cornflower was a church mouse, it would Tim and Tess would be like her brother and sister, and that would be weird.
Be very weird.
Yes.
Maybe
Well,
this is
maybe-
the animated series where John Churchmouse was her dad. I don't know. Still weird.
Yeah. No, they definitely did in the animated series as well, but I just thought that Jakes might have a better grip on his own story.
Well,
Not
here,
forget that.
allow me to try to make a little fan theory for this. In
Okay.
the original Redwall book, there was this in the very beginning before they ran into Clooney's band. They were traveling back to St. Ninian's with all the church mice, and Cornflower was going with them. So maybe her family lived with the church mice, and that's how they found out about this recipe.
Okay. I dubiously accept your fan theory.
Well, I mean, besides, remember, Cornflower is being a dreadful fibber, and this isn't actually a cheerful church mouse cherry crisp.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yes.
And this isn't even a
Basically-
recipe.
This is basically cherries with sugar, more sugar, oats, almond, and honey.
Mhm.
I have no problem with this.
Nope.
Where does the crisp come in?
I don't know.
The sesame seeds.
Oh,
I
okay.
forgot to take out the stems or the pits.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why, hey guys, why is Admiral Spike's mouth foaming up?
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that joke was just the pits.
That's the cherry on top.
Thank you. But yes, we're outright told that Cornflower has her quote paws crossed behind her back when she tells the friar that this is totally not his recipe.
I totally cooked this myself. Looks over and like kind of hides the receipt from the delivery place.
This tastes like takeout. No, no.
This tastes like Krusty Burger. No, they're steamed hams.
So we get the next one is featuring a hedgehog on the page, and it's Rosie Jolly's raspberry jelly rock cakes. Rock cakes? Oh God, no!
Otter rock creams.
These definitely do not sound like Otter Rock creams, which I'm actually surprised that wasn't thrown in as a little gag at the end.
But yes, effectively, if you've ever, especially this time of year, if you've ever made jelly cookies where you put your thumb in and put jelly into it, that's what these are.
Thumbprint cookies.
Yes,
I made these one year
Paw print
for the food
cookies.
episode.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you did? Oh,
I did. They were
did they
good.
turn? Oh, good.
I used raspberry jam and they were quite good.
Ooh,
Yeah, these are thumbprint cookies by another name.
paw print cookies.
Okay, paw print cookies. And this wouldn't be British cooking if we didn't have, even after this massive feast, afternoon tea scones with strawberry jam and cream.
Yes.
Want.
It is the
Mhm.
most British.
Yes.
They do sound delicious.
So they had this big brunch in the orchard, and shortly thereafter, okay, it's time for afternoon tea.
I would like to point out in this next part, there was no tea in the making of all this summer tea. The only tea recipe we got was that mint tea at the beginning.
Yes.
What a tease.
Did they leaf it out?
We also
Jeremy's gonna be boiling mad at this.
I
I'll
mean,
have to pay
that
a
joke
steep
was in the
price.
bag.
Katie, I am so sorry.
I think Katie's pun counter has broken at this point.
It's broken.
Yeah, I
Katie,
haven't-
instead of like the little ding, you just need to become our official bell ringer.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
And if it wouldn't spike her microphone and the rest of the audio, I would totally ship her an air horn right about now. We also have our one and only appearance of Jess Squirrel
Yay!
on the next page for the next recipe. And Jess is very domestic here. I only say that in relation to how she's depicted in the animated series when she's wearing something far more athletic. Here she is definitely in a full dress and apron, which is fine, but I was like,
Cooking. She's
Yeah,
cooking. She's not
yeah.
bounding through the trees trying to beat people. So you know.
I mean, there are no little shrimpy vermin that are trying to stab everybody with tiny spears that she needs to,
Yeah.
threaten with the sword of Martin the Warrior.
And,
Yeah.
and Pete, if it'll help, I guarantee you, if trouble did come, she'd whip off that apron and use it to strangle whoever tried to threaten the Abbey folk.
Fair enough. So we also get two adorable, I guess, mole kids in the corner there.
Yep.
We're basically like, we want pieces of that massive cake that is more than half our size.
To be honest, when you're a kid, Everybody would want that. You would want
Oh
that.
my god.
Give
Squirrel
me
Bum's blackberry and apple cake. Yes.
Yeah.
All of it.
I need to try making this. I haven't tried baking that often, but last year I did make pecan pie for the first time. And that turned out really well. I would love to try to make blackberry and apple cake.
Oh no, you call it pecan.
Pecan? I don't know. I alternate, honestly.
We always
Yes.
say pecan down here.
Okay.
It's generally pecan here as well.
I alternate. Because I've heard both, so.
Unless you're
We-
William Shatner, in which case you just shout, pecan!
Oh,
I pecan try.
Our last
See, if I
one.
pronounced it pecan, I couldn't make that pun. Which
Our
would
last
make
one
two people in this
is-
podcast happy.
You done?
Maybe.
Our
Go
last one is it's a Gosum recipe apparently, and yeah, they call it shortbread, but oh good lord, just how much fat is in this thing.
Much butter.
I made this actually before the podcast
Mhm.
started, and yeah, it was really good. I put powdered sugar on it, and it was sort of like those those pecan cookies that you make, the ones with all the butter and flour and powdered sugar,
Mhm.
but without nuts in it, and it was really good.
Yeah, this is
Let's be
basically-
fair. Many things where the recipe consists of 2 sticks of butter is usually pretty tasty.
Yep.
Because butter
Yeah.
and heavy cream
mean-
taste good.
I mean, it's 2 sticks of butter for only 2.5 cups of flour.
Yep.
sounds like Paula Dean's recipe.
I mean, when I make beer bread every other week or so, I might do maybe a quarter cup of butter, which is half a stick or less of butter. So it's about the same proportions here of how much in of a loaf of beer bread, and I'm like, oh my god.
I mean, come on. You know that's all there to make it taste butter. And
So
Pete is
next
just
up, we've
losing
got
it.
summer strawberry fizz.
Before we get to that, we actually outright state that since Friar Hugo has passed out, and with that much cholesterol in his system, basically it's just like everyone admits, like, oh yeah, these were all Friar Hugo's recipes, and we were totally lying. We were just doing this to give him a day off.
Why do you think there was so much butter? Of course, it was his recipe.
He's the Paula
I mean-
Dean of the Redwall universe.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't
Remember,
expect him to cook healthy food because he is a friar.
yeah.
This is true.
And I mean, remember some of the names of the friars we've had? Torin Widegirth.
Yes.
They aren't known for making healthy food. It tastes good. It looks good. It sounds good. It is not good for you.
Well, to be fair, they get enough exercise fighting off the random vermin attack that they kind of burn off all the fat anyway.
Mm.
Well,
Alright,
the,
so we
the general rule is never trust a skinny chef, right?
Oh yeah, this is true.
well, I mean, we can excuse Gordon Ramsay because he burns all that off and just the
Yelling. Fair.
Do you know how many calories he burns just screaming at people?
Yeah. What it this tangent here, but when you next on YouTube, look, the Muppets did produce a short with Gordon Ramsay facing off against the Swedish Chef.
Oh, I thought you were going to
Oh, that
mention the
sounds
Swedish chef
fantastic.
making the popcorn chicken sketch.
No.
That one too, though. But
Yeah. It's
I mean,
basically
anything- Anything with the Swedish Chef is just amazing.
yeah.
Bork, bork, bork.
But yeah, our last summer recipe here is basically just a strawberry shake. It's summer strawberry fizz, and it's 4 cups of strawberries. It's 1 cup of strawberry ice cream, 4 additional teaspoons of sugar, because why
Not
not?
enough.
And seltzer water, and you blend it.
Oh God. Yeah, that's all right. That's
Oh, and this is our first Dibbin-friendly recipe this entire time.
figures. The one with a ton of sugar is the first one for Dibbins. What a surprise! What a surprise! Oh
It's
god!
little wonder Skipper is carrying back Friar Hugo back to the Abbey in a diabetic coma.
This is the part where Skipper has become giant, because he's just sort of cradling Hugo in his arms like a little baby.
Like a giant baby.
Oh god! So autumn kicks off with all the Dibbins playing outside and Madame Mayo.
Oh, hey. We also, before we get to that, Autumn actually shows us, again, like, more of the full Abbey. And like we mentioned with The Winter's Tale, we see more than just the one building, just not much. We also see, like, fields beyond that. And it's clearly agricultural fields based on, the traditional British or Irish style of doing stone walls in between. So.
Yep.
I would love to have this image as just an HD wallpaper for my computer. It is gorgeous.
Yep.
Maybe even a lithographed print for my wall.
But yes, Jeremy, you were saying something about Madame Mayo, and yes, we should address how old is he here?
We don't know. He's definitely older than the Dibbins, which apparently I'm just gonna say Madame Mayo has arrived from an alternate dimension, because somehow he is older than Bungo, which it's pretty clear that Bungo was born before him. So Madame Mayo showed up one day in his Acorn DeLorean and went, "Matthias, we have to go back."
No, Jeremy, if I may, this is more like Trunks out of DBZ.
Madame Mayo appeared with the sword, and Robo Clooney had shown up, and Madame Mayo cut him into pieces while Matthias was on his way back.
Yeah.
There we go.
Next time on Red Wall Z.
Okay, let me just put it this way. If we're gonna do that, then we need to have just one episode that's nothing but Clooney and Matthias like squaring off against each other, shouting.
Yeah, you gotta have this
random wind flows past.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Yeah.
3 hours later.
Clooney's like, wait until I get to my final form. Oh gosh. So wait, if Robo Clooney's there, does Clooney's dad show up too?
Sure, why not?
So
But
anyway,
yes.
so now we get actually Strawberry Fizz was our first signature Redwall dish that we see a lot. Where now our signature Redwall food, we get the famous Mole's favorite, as it's called, Deeper and Ever Turnip and Tater and Beetroot Pie.
Yep.
But Madame Mayo himself, yeah, as we said, this is older time displaced Madame Mayo. Who basically, yeah, he's leading the Dibbins back in, and he leads them so well they run right over him. The illustration of him is him being knocked aside.
Yep. And then you see him kind of like stumbling in with Bungo, or kind of like leading him in, like he's like, "What happened?"
Also get a what looks like Great. No, this is Cavern Hole, not Great Hall. But strangely enough, what's depicted here, it looks like Japanese paper lanterns.
Oh yeah.
Did someone import those?
Yeah, that's actually what the illustration description says too. I was like, huh, that's weird.
I would like to point out though, there is a Dibbin holding this little like rabbit doll, and it's adorable.
Yes.
So yep, they come in, and
we also get. I have to mention this because we all know how well Abbey parents take head counts.
Oh God, so many children.
It's nice to see our Dibbins right on time. Young Madame Mayo has done a good job. There's not one of them missing. I mean, shouldn't that be the expectation?
Well, above and beyond.
Yeah, let's be fair.
Everyone's here.
It's more normal for them to be kidnapped or disappear into the wilderness than it is for all of them to show up.
Oh, and like I said, we get, as Jeremy mentioned, we get a very disheveled Madame Mayo being led in by Bungo.
Yeah.
Just covered in leaves, just like, I regret my life choices.
I'm gonna take my time machine and go back to the future. Oh God. So yep, and now we get to our deeper and ever pie, and I do want to try making this at some point.
Same.
Yes. It was very good when I made it. I would just not advise putting an entire block of cheese on it like I did. So it's like, this doesn't
not
seem
planning
like
on
enough
that.
cheese.
I mean,
like
that would
so
turn it
much-
from deeper and ever in turnip and tater and beetroot pie to cheeser and ever in turnip and tater and beetroot pie.
Yeah. What happened was I was just kind of grating, and I was grating the cheese, and I was probably listening to a podcast or something, and I was like, huh, there's only a little bit of cheese left, and all the rest of it is on the pie. Well, too late now.
So you're
That's
saying
like
it's
that's like when I was making was it chicken pot pie a couple months ago, and I was reading the directions and everything, but it called for frozen peas, like a bag of frozen peas. I didn't look at the directions until I poured the entire bag in. I was only supposed to pour half the bag in.
Well,
So it became chicken pea pie.
which sounds just great.
There's so many peas.
it sounds like Katie's recipe turned out pretty great.
Ah.
Okay, I like that one.
She's
It
a
wasn't
great
grating
person,
on your
to be
nerves?
fair.
No, Jeremy, you ruined it.
Yep. Pete's nerves are now shredded.
Come on,
Every
So-
we're
time I just get
cheesy over
cheddar
here.
and cheddar.
Next we get is a more Ambrose Spike, and yeah, this is where I can hear his voice as previously mentioned.
This was the part, yeah, where it was like, drink hearty, Tim. Nothing like good old October ale to wet your whistle. It's the best I've brewed in many a season.
Ambrose is literally resting against one of his own kegs.
And he's getting Tim Churchmouse drunk.
Yeah. And basically, Ambrose is basically, hey, the Bell Ringers reward, I'll trade you my recipe for October Ale for it. And your first is Bell Ringers reward, which is, as it says, roast roots and baked spuds.
Sounds
So it's
delicious.
baked potatoes.
Yep.
I'd be down for this. And then we get the famous October Ale recipe.
Okay, this is like the Disney-vied version of the October Ale. This
Yeah.
cannot be the real thing.
So it's like butterbeer.
Yeah,
I'm fine with
it's
that.
basically butterbeer out of the Harry Potter world.
Put in parentheses underneath it. Add as much alcohol as you want after the fact for that true Ambrose Spike style.
There's not even any hops in this or barley. You can't call this an ale. Like Gordon Ramsay here.
So yep, it's ingredients: 2 cups of ginger beer or ginger ale, 1 cup grape juice, and 1 teaspoon of sugar, which you would omit if using ginger ale.
And for the record, this is our second Dibbin-friendly recipe. Imagine that.
Again, the
Here, have
drinks.
some ale.
We're back to, by the way, Constance is indoors and she's not wearing her summer wear. She's just wearing her scarf.
Yep.
Okay.
And they said Constance grew 3 sizes that day.
Yeah, she's a lot bigger, maybe a little bit bigger than she was in the last time we saw her. And our next story segment basically shows, hey, there's Basil and his rambunctious nephew, who are cleaning out what's called biscuits, but in British lore, a biscuit is a cookie. So,
Yes.
and they're completely eating an entire tray of these things.
Of course they are.
I mean, even Basil and maybe his nephew look like they're the only ones in shape, and even then.
I mean, you could argue that they need the calories if they do like patrolling and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're like the only ones. It seems like everyone else is overweight except
Yeah,
Skipper.
And admittedly, that's more Chris's art, but that's still fine.
So what? Just one real quick. What season are we in?
Autumn.
Autumn. Well, they're getting ready for winter, so they got to load on the pounds, right?
This is true.
We also get more of Basil's history. He didn't say in the main books about, because Tom Scott's like, why don't you know my old Uncle Baser, an asshole? He used to make this when he was an officer cook in the 67th Paw and Mouth Long Patrol. Wait, what?
Did
Yeah.
would anyone else actually have gotten fed if Basil was the cook? Let's be fair.
Well, I mean, more so than Scarum.
Yes.
This is true.
That's your one reference to Scarum.
Ding!
But no, that literally just said long patrol. So I guess Basil was Salamandastron trained. Huh.
I guess you can retcon that in. I mean,
In this like alternate timeline.
Yeah.
No, that's it. The Manameo from the Prime timeline is the Manameo here.
He's from the Kelvin timeline.
Or no, this is the what if Friar Hugo lived timeline.
ah,
There we go.
But yes, Basil's like, oh yeah, he mentions the Hare's Haversack Crumble. And Katie, I believe you have something to say about this one.
yeah. So I actually made the autumn oat favorites as well, like the first episode, the food episode, like our first one, except for I didn't get to be on it because my Skype hated me. But I did make those. They were good. They were like crispy oatmeal type cookies. And then this was like, it's like a berry crisp, which is very delicious. You kind of mix a little bit. I didn't use as much sugar as they suggested for the berries, but I did mix it together, and it sort of like made this like berry syrup that was quite good. And then I put it was like flour, butter, brown sugar, and chopped. I used walnuts because that's what I had. I was not going to make a grocery order, so I did that, and yeah, it's very good. It says serve warm with ice cream. So I call shenanigans on putting this into a haversack and trying to dig it out on the march because it's not that kind of dessert.
This is more like what Horty brought with him.
Right, exactly. Unless you're Horty Braybuck, this is not a thing that you dig out of unless you want to be real unsanitary. Because if you dig this out, your paw's going to be sticky and you're going to get like fur in your food and it's not going to be good. But otherwise, if you eat it like a civilized creature, it is delicious.
I do like the fact that the 2 tablespoons of sugar is listed under fruit.
Yeah.
Yes, we have the two recipes. Autumn Oat favorites, which is the cookies, and the Hare's Haversack Crumble, which is not for marching. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love how for all of these they have pictures of like all the ingredients. For the Autumn Oat favorites, it's just 1 stick of butter sitting there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like, we're not gonna beat around the bush. This is just butter with some oats mixed in.
Oat butter.
Oat butter.
And now we get
butter
our
dipped
next
butter, my favorite.
we get our next trade. We have Rosie Spike, who is a mole there, and basically goes to Matthias and offers to trade recipes.
You mean hedgehog?
You did it again, Pete.
Hedgehog.
And she's tangentially related to Ambrose too.
Yes.
From what we understand.
So this is the first of 2 puddings, but they're just called pud.
Oh my God, Matthias made a pun on this page. He said, "What you're offering for our feast, Rosie? Point it out." You can't blame me for that one.
No, I cannot.
I mean, you can blame me for pointing it out. No, I swear that was not meant to be a pun.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't believe you.
Bringing it up. How's that? Calling attention to it.
So we're basically given 2 things. Let's see. Rosie
bread.
offers a pudding, and Matthias has a Lomhedge Legacy nut bread. Did he go? Yeah, this has to be after Manameo, maybe. Because I mean, where else did he pick up this recipe except in the ruins of Lomhedge?
This has got to be an alternate timeline then.
Yeah.
As he was fighting off the legion of rats under the underground, he found this lying on the floor and went, "Ooh, nut bread recipe."
No. Mark Hollis was clutching it in his paw when Matthias was like, "Oh, neat."
That was Malkaris' secret. Oh God.
Sounds pretty good though.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're saying this is an alternate timeline, there's no Alma or Orlando hanging around. Just pointing that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the nut bread sounds good. It's 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper.
Yeah.
This will
Yeah,
have a little
spice.
bit of spice to it.
And the pudding itself is fruit, honey, and whipped cream.
And bread. So it's like
So
a bread
yes.
pudding.
Yeah.
Bread pudding is awesome.
Okay. So yeah, that's the end of at least in the story-wise, it's the end of the massive autumn dinner.
That's the end of that chapter.
And well, we
Oh,
know
no,
we
wait,
still have
actually,
two
there's
more
2 more.
recipes yet to do.
Yeah.
And because Father Abbott's like, well, we should probably do dessert. Really?
Really? With also 3 other things that had a ton of sugar in them? Really?
More butter and sugar. What else are you gonna have?
I love how one of the this is the one you made, Pete, but it starts off the first ingredient, the primary ingredient is 3 tablespoons of sugar.
So we have, and despite the name, no, neither of these recipes are Dibbin friendly. So the Dibbin's Delight, because I want to do the pears next.
Yep.
Which basically sounds like it. Oh my god! It's
Bars.
mixed nuts. It's 2 cups of white sugar, 1¾ cup of light brown sugar, 6 tablespoons of golden syrup or corn syrup.
My God.
God.
This
What
sounds like something from McDonald's where it's got like 8 kinds of sugar in it.
It's like a brittle, like a peanut brittle, except not peanut, but just
Other
nut.
nuts.
God,
Yeah.
your teeth will become brittle after eating this thing.
This Red Bull has good dentist, I hope.
I hope.
Okay, so that just leads me to the Golden Hill pears, and this is the one I created for this recipe. And while I was doing it, I posted it to our Twitter, and actually people were like, "Oh, so." And this is not similar to the baked apples I've made in previous years, but instead of baking, it's steaming. Fine. So this recipe involves 3 tablespoons of sugar, as Jeremy pointed out, and 4 pears, and allspice. Pretty simple. You basically start by caramelizing sugar with water in a saucepan, and once it's just starting to caramelize, you put halved and cored pears into said saucepan and cover it for about 15 minutes, adding another 1/4 cup of water. And you basically let the caramel water steam these pears until they're nice and tender, and you basically have to immediately, once they're tender, take the pears out, immediately scoop what's left of the caramel sauce because it's gonna harden quick over the pears. And I had 1, and yes, please. The only thing I didn't mention, you put allspice over the pears themselves. So.
So were they?
these were-
They were good.
Mhm. It'll be dessert like after work every day this week. I like perhaps.
That sounds tasties.
Oh, that just leads us into winter.
Hey ho, now comes the snow.
And Jeremy is quoting it.
If
I
you
don't
would
see
like
no
to
snow
hear the rest of the
badger.
poem, please purchase your copy of the book. This is the shareware version.
Matthias, you want to mention that?
Yeah. It. Move over, benching with Babish. It's time for Hungry with Hugo.
Red Bull Cooking Show. Oh, good one.
The next Red Wall board game, Hungry Hugo's.
Oh no.
So, winter starts off with, again, we always have a starting poem. And we see Sister Pansy's running around with a broom, and while Constance and Friar Hugo are watching.
Yep. She's a maniac on the floor, and her paws are dancing like they've never danced before.
She mentioned that, yes, we have an Abbey Winter Snowball.
That's new.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a whole lot of dancing in these, is there? Or am I just
Maybe
forgetting?
in the cartoon, but
Yeah, there usually isn't a whole lot of dancing going on.
Mostly
I
just
mean,
singing.
Probably because they'd all like throw up as they eat so much food. But
I remember in Bellmaker there was some dancing, and then in Pearls of Lucha because Alma danced all the Dibbins off to their beds.
Oh, yeah.
but yes, we're also mentioned Constance like, oh, don't worry, we're still plenty of time to cook. We're still waiting on Skipper and his crew dragging a winter log in from Musflower Wood. So I assume they find one of those big trees that has fallen in the year since. Full of mold.
Big, it's heavy, it's wood.
Just say full of mold and bugs. And
the crack. That helps the crackling of the fire. You just hear.
Oh, no.
But yes, we finally have the otter special. What they always mention in every book in our one recipe with meat.
Shrimp and hot root soup.
So I have a question, Jeremy. You don't like shrimp, correct?
Correct.
So why did you make this?
So I made it. So first of all I used a fan one, which actually is different from this because this one includes potatoes, which sounds good. But so one of my friends and I, we decided to make it just without the shrimp. What we
Okay.
ended up making was just spicy, nasty red water.
That sounds terrible.
It was disgusting. We both took like a taste and just went like. It was nasty.
Well,
And
this recipe basically thankfully sounds much better.
Mhm.
It's 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, onion, leeks,
of course.
vegetable stock, 3 medium potatoes, curry powder or chili powder,
Mhm.
and then 8 ounces of shrimp. Which there's no way this serves 4 people. Like a pound of shrimp would be more expected. So it doesn't. But
Yeah, and
Maybe the
it does
potatoes help make it more filling.
maybe.
Well, I was
Yeah,
going
but
to
still-
say, if it's one course in a Redwall feast and you're eating a whole bunch of other stuff, I'm sure it would serve
Okay, you got a point.
fewer
Yeah.
people.
Do we even know where they get their shrimp in this series? I would presume a river.
Yeah,
Because there's
Yeah.
no way that the pond could suffice.
yeah. Because I think in the beginning of Tagarung, didn't Dana's dad like find shrimp in the river that he brought Dana to?
He did, yes.
Okay.
That did not end well for him.
No,
No.
it did not. But that's like the one instance I can think of where they found the shrimp nearby.
Yeah.
Unless your father is the Abbey warrior, he's going to die.
Oh God.
So-
And specifically the Abbey warrior, because we've seen what happened when they're the warrior not in the Abbey. So we've got. So yeah, this one sounds better. Take out the shrimp, and this sounds way better than the nasty thing that we
You
made,
made.
which my friend and I, we nicknamed it the Devil's Urine.
God.
We did actually chop up the green onions for it. They turned brown
Well,
because they soaked up all the heat, like red gunk and everything. It was. Ugh. Oh yeah,
I
this
mean,
uses milk too.
I've made green onions in sriracha sauce before, and they definitely took on the redder color.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, this one they didn't turn red. They just turned straight up brown. It was pretty gross.
See, I don't have the cookbook, but I was able to find a picture of this recipe, and I kind of read through it, and I thought it sounded good, but I don't know that I've ever had shrimp and potatoes in a soup together, and that seemed odd to me. I'm used to like
It sound-
other things, but I don't
I mean,
remember
even-
ever eating shrimp and potatoes together.
Even based on the recipe itself, especially since there's a cup of milk here, this sounds more like a stew than a
Yeah.
traditional soup.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. No, it's just. Yeah, a couple of these things. Well, when we get to it, the thing I made, it said soup, but that also turned out to be more like a stew.
So the next one we get is a veggie bowl. That's what it's
Veggie bowl.
written there.
Vegetable bowl bake.
And this is basically a vegetable casserole, which sounds awesome, actually.
yeah.
This also has a 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream.
Yeah, if I would make this, I wouldn't do it with the cream.
I love how right underneath it says 3/4 of a cup of vegetable stock or milk. So you could have 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream and then add even more milk to it. And
I can hear
then,
my lactose intolerance screaming already.
yeah, and two tablespoons of unsalted butter plus additional for the pan. Gosh, my arteries are hardening just reading this.
Oh, we also, and as the story goes on, we get Pansy wielding a long spoon and chasing our hairs out of the kitchen.
Which is actually good continuity with earlier, because earlier she used like a rolling pin, and they're like, no, use a ladle, it's quicker. And so this one.
And unless you want to get basal brain damage. So,
Oh gosh.
so.
We then come up to the next one.
Well, before that, Hugo's line. No, sister, you hit the right note. Always remember, a hair in the kitchen is like a horde of vermin in a strawberry patch.
Yep. So, yep. Now we come to stones in a swamp, which this is what I made.
These look like dumplings. So.
They are. So what it is, you make bean soup, which is more like bean stew, considering it only has you use 1 cup of vegetable stock for some reason for all this stuff. So I poured in more of it because like it didn't seem like enough.
Yeah.
But then you make these parsley dumplings and you drop them in and they kind of cook with it when it's been cooking for a while. This was fine. I don't really recommend this one, especially because the time investment is ridiculous because you have to. It's bean soup, and it has you soak the beans overnight. So like,
Yeah.
I got everything and was like, all right, I'm gonna make this. And then I looked at the instructions, and the very first thing to make the soup, soak the dried beans in water overnight. And I was like, well, I guess I'm making this tomorrow then. And so yeah, it took me even after that, and ignoring the 12 hours or 24 hours or whatever that they were soaking in there, it took me about 3 hours to cook this thing.
Oh man.
And even when I was done, the dumplings still didn't taste fully cooked.
Mm.
Like they didn't cook all the way through. So it's basically bean soup, bean and vegetable soup. Like I like all the vegetables in it. But it was also kind of bland. So when I've been reheating it, I've been using a few other things. So like last night I used some curry powder actually with it.
Oh, nice.
And that helped a little bit.
Sounds really inconvenient to make.
Yeah, it's not great.
Mm.
I
And I
have
mean,
to
it's,
say, I did register that pun. that you
Okay,
made.
okay.
Even though Jeremy
Oh, I didn't. Oh, inconvenient.
Yes.
Inconvenient.
uh,
A little hard to
No.
pick up.
I'm reminded of an old bit from the original Muppet Show.
Mhm.
I'll adapt it. Do you like dumplings? I don't know. I've never dumpled.
Okay. So we get our next one. The savory swirl bakes. Which
2 cups of cheese.
Yep.
Yeah.
This one.
Well, yes. And this basically looks like mashed potatoes with extra ingredients, really.
Yeah, this is true. After that,
So
Yep.
many carbs.
All the carbs!
All the carbs.
carb wall.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how they got all of the seltzer water. They used carbonation.
We keep a bubbly mood.
I can tell.
So we then have, and we've also found out Pansy is actually the one cooking all the dishes this time. And so she has the next one, which is outside and inside cobbler riddle. Because of course there has to be at least one riddle in the book.
This did sound good, but too much work than I was willing to invest, because what I made pretty much involved mixing a little bit and then dumping into a dish, which is pretty much what I had the energy for this weekend. So
Oh, and working with almond flour is not
Oh,
easy.
yeah.
God, there's finally ground with a mortar and pestle. Who has a mortar and pestle lying around?
Or just buy a
Almond flour.
that's already ground.
Yeah.
1/2 cup of sliced almonds. Fine. All right.
Apparently, a mortar and pestle is a common British kitchen implement, I guess.
Yeah.
Then.
I think my
I do-
mother-in-law actually has one too,
Oh,
because
nice.
she's in the kitchen all the time. So
I've
I
got
mean-
a food processor. This is the same thing.
I have a stick blender. Like, actually, in the picture of Pansy on page 85, you can see the mortar and pestle in front of the cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get. Oh God! Wow, there's still a few to go. We get our next pudding, Rubbity-dub Pud.
Yep.
And, oh god, there's more butter.
Oh, and that Bungo named that, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah, this one,
Rhubarb. I like rhubarb.
I can't remember if it had rhubarb or not.
It's very tart by itself. Like I wouldn't eat a raw stalk of rhubarb, but
Yeah,
And
sounds pretty good. And then Nunny Molars.
yep. Which
well,
I made last
apparently
year.
they're supposed to be called honey moles, but in mole speak they're known as nunny molars.
Yes.
Yep. And this one, believe it or not, there's a lot of sugar in this one.
Of course there is. They're very good. I made them last year, and also I think they made their first appearance in Pearls of Lutra
Yes, I
or
remember
something
that.
similar.
Yeah. Yep. And I think I remember the exact line in it where it's like, it looked very little like a honeyed mole, but it was delicious.
Oh yeah, the Divids thought it did, so that was fine.
Yep. So it was all in good fun.
Yep.
It's Redwall animal crackers.
Ooh. So those sound delicious, and I want to try. There's so many things I want to try making out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Our next one is
apple snow.
Mhm.
Yeah, which this one has a note with it too, by the way, because it involves using one raw egg white.
Yes.
And it also showed, like most people saying, it does have a cautionary note here, like the risk of salmonella from raw egg is possible but small. But
Yeah.
to minimize use the risk, substitute powdered egg whites
Mhm.
to, or avoid all risk rather. They have minimized it basically, but honestly, in the day and age, you can buy liquid egg white in any grocery store.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, the name Apple Snow reminds me of a dessert I once had a chance to try called Apple Frost, which was basically just like a snow cone, but instead of it being like artificial syrups, they used like apple juice and apple cider
Oh, nice.
as the flavoring, and it
Sounds
made
good.
it like super cold. I mean, look at your pinky finger. Look at the nail. That's about how much you would have to eat at a time. Otherwise, you would get brain freeze unlike anything you've ever experienced
Oh
before.
my.
Oh, so this is one of those nitrogen ice cream places, essentially.
Kind of. Except it came out of your standard like soft serve vending machine.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Well, the next one is something I haven't done with cider yet, but I've definitely done mulled wine.
I did this recipe 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And if you go back and listen, it turned out absolutely fantastic. It was definitely worth doing, especially around the holidays.
I think I remember that.
Yeah,
Or hearing you
it's-
talk about it.
The recipe here is basically 2 cups of apple cider, more sugar,
Yep.
4 cloves, 1 cinnamon stick, pinch of ground allspice, 2 slices lime or lemon. So.
Yep. And you can actually get like just mulled spices, just like something that's called mulled spices, and basically you would just heat it up with some apple cider. I did that, I think a couple of years ago. I didn't do it for the podcast. I just sort of did it because I saw someone else doing it, and oh my god, it's delicious. It's so good.
And as I just said, I've done mulled wine before, which obviously is for adults, but not chill kids.
Divin,
don't
not,
wanna-
not Divin friendly.
Oh
No.
no. But it's mostly the same. With mulled wine, you generally speaking, you're supposed to use, assuming mulled red wine. I haven't done mulled white. It's basically this, except you don't add sugar, but cinnamon or allspice is pretty common with maybe an orange garnish.
Yeah, in this case, I remember putting on the lemon slices and being like, I'm not the sort of person when I go to a restaurant that likes the lemon wedge on my water. I don't like the addition. So it's usually like, without lemon, give me lemonless water. But in this case, it adds just a tiny, and I mean tiny, a little bit of citrus, and it actually complements the flavor very nicely.
Nice.
Yeah, and so that's that. I think that's our last recipe.
Yep.
So there was only 2 children-friendly recipes in this whole book.
And they're mostly sugar.
Yeah.
Okay, every recipe is mostly sugar.
That's
Or
very
butter.
fair.
Or heavy cream.
Or cheese.
Yeah.
But essentially, the rest of the story here is basically Friar Hugo, alternate timeline Friar Hugo, saying, "I'm retiring. This is your job now. Bye."
Yep.
I have to go now. My Abby needs me.
Did we bring up the very handsome, dashing dancing mouse?
Oh, we haven't. Spry Wisp.
Spry Wisp.
I like that name.
Yeah.
Yep, he shows up and teaches Pansy how to dance, and she and everyone dance at the big dinner, which I'm assuming they're, like I said, I'm assuming they're dancing before they eat. Yeah, exactly. Or else that'd be a different type of cleanup afterwards.
Oh boy.
But yes, we get our major final art here is Pansy and Spryerwist dancing, and the Great Hall dressed in not Christmas. So
It's Life Day.
Oh, no.
but also of note, although we see the major players, we see Basil and his nephew, we see what I presume is Ambrose in one corner, we see Constance and Skipper in another otter, and poor Martin on the tapestry gets blocked off by one of the pillars. Sorry, Martin.
Aw.
And I
You
want
hear
to
him
point
going
out,
like, I want to see you! Get out of the way!
This tapestry may come with an obstructed view.
I want to point out for anybody within the Redwall community that's looking to make some kind of Redwall themed account and wants to guarantee that the name they choose isn't already picked, choose Sprywisp, because I guarantee nobody has ever made an account based on Sprywisp, but he's a canon character.
Give me 1 second and I will...
Don't you dare!
Too late.
It's for the fans.
I know, I'm kidding.
Now, Brandon, I think you mentioned you did have a recipe not out of this cookbook, but you had one you have made or tried.
Yeah. I tried the Redwall.net. They have the kitchen, and it's got just a bunch of recipes. I think they also have a candied nut recipe. But when I was in, I want to say high school, I attempted to make the candied rose petals, and I, like a true teenage Mel, I did not follow directions very well, and so what I ended up with was basically incredibly wet flower petals that I'm not sure were roses, I tried to make rock candy one year for chemistry because you could get extra credit for it from our chemistry teacher, and I tried and I put the string in. And I went back the next morning, and it was basically the string was just sitting there in sugar water. So this turned out just about as well. I ended up with just wet rose leaves, and that was basically it. It was a complete failure.
That
But I would like
Redwall.net kitchen is actually where I got the recipe for the hot root soup.
The devil's urine.
Yep. Yes, exactly.
But I have, and I'll probably eventually order the book, or I did see a couple of recipe, like someone posted images online, and so I would like to try to make the turnip and tater and beetroot pie and the hot root soup, just because you read about them so many times, you want to see what they taste like.
Mhm.
But that was the only recipe, and I guess sorry to sound like an old person, but back in my day, when I was still young, you didn't have as much stuff. Like the Redwall kitchen was basically like the only thing I could find, other than like it was. I guess you didn't have Amazon either when we were in high school, and so like that was the best I could find in terms of online recipes. But I think eventually I'll probably end up ordering the book, just because these recipes actually seem legit, and so I'd like to try to make some of them.
Yeah, I might advise you to cut down on the sugar and butter requirements, but yes.
Yes.
I mean, there's a consulting credit, Paula Dean. No. I may knock Miss Paula Deen, but truth be complete honesty, I've been to her restaurant, and yeah, it was good. I'm not gonna.
Of course.
I use her seafood gumbo recipe. Like that's my like just go-to recipe, and it's great.
Mhm.
So like of course it's got a lot of butter, but it works.
You know why
But
they
yeah.
use butter, right? Because it
Why?
tastes good.
Yes.
I just remember watching an episode of her show back wasn't on Food Network and clearly before her fall from grace, but it was she was making literal butter shots with lobster in it.
Oh. Well,
With
I-
cooked
I will-
lobster, yeah.
I will say I am a little disappointed that there's no recipe for skillion duff in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're not aside from the fact that no, they're not going to put an alcoholic recipe in here. Yeah, we don't have much out of the cellars here. We have our not October ale, and
It's ale. Ginger ale isn't alcoholic.
you know
And
what
it's
I meant.
and I hate alcohol, so
So ales well that ends well.
Ah! Let's be gingerly.
Oh,
Yeah, so overall, this was a cool little book. I like how there was a little fun story with it, even though I totally forgot that we were supposed to read that story until Pete mentioned it yesterday.
You're
Well,
welcome.
it's not like I read it this morning.
I read it this morning.
Yeah.
I read it this afternoon.
I am procrastination.
Yeah. So that leaves us that'll end us for 2020, folks. Of course, as always, folks, from all of us here, enjoy your holiday season, whatever the case may be. Stay safe, and we don't want anyone catching dry dish fever.
Nope.
But Jeremy, where can they find us?
They can find us at recorderonthewall.com. We are on whatever the heck the podcast services are called nowadays. I'm just going to call them iTunes and Google Play because I don't know what they changed them to and I don't care. We're also on Spotify. We are featured on the Redwall forums. We are featured on the Redwall subreddit, Eulalia subreddit. I don't know how Reddit works. I didn't read it. We also have a Twitter account at ROTWpod. I hope you like the image on there because it took me 10 minutes to figure out how to put it up there when we first started it.
The original icon image? I've changed that.
Oh, you ruined my hard work. We also have an email address, rotwpod@gmail.com. Feel free to leave reviews and many things, and I will continue to talk to give Pete a chance to check to see if we have any new reviews.
I totally didn't forget, guys.
So feel free to leave us reviews, so this way it doesn't feel like we're wasting time every time, because I feel like every single time we do this, Pete goes on there and there's nothing there. Oh boy, but yep, so that's all our stuff. And when I say you can check out our Twitter account, I'm going to say 99% of the time Pete's the one making those tweets, because I sent one once, and again it took me like 10 or 15 minutes to figure out how to do it. So
no, we don't have any new ratings or text reviews.
Okay.
That's what we
still-
want
we're
for
still
Christmas. Give us
Yeah.
reviews. Give us ratings.
All I want for Redwall Miss is reviews.
Yeah, this will be out if I don't slack off of my editing duties. This will be out right before Christmas. I think I'm aiming for December 21st.
Okay. Oh right, I have to edit the podcast for our other podcast.
All right. Well, again, folks, thank you for coming on. My name is Pete. I'm your Papa Abbott.
I'm Jeremy. I don't know what my job is. My job is to not understand social media technology. That's apparently my job.
I'm Matthias. I would like to say that I'm the Redwall librarian, but really I'm just the guy that puts the scrolls back on the shelf.
And I'm Katie, continuity nitpicker and pun counter, and I say happy December Wayne to you all.
Brandon, you're less.
And I'm Brandon. I'm here to help make Katie's life miserable.
I appreciate that.
At least he's honest about it. All right, folks. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.